The last of the reform endings sits apart from the other three. Welcome back to Club Chair Critique. My name's Logan. This video is the fourth in a series on the endings of Elden Ring, what themes drive their narratives, what philosophies they represent, and what choosing them may say about you. This video covers the last of the reform endings, the Blessing of Despair, the Dung Eater's ending. To say the game engenders revulsion for this character is an understatement. He is the loathsome Dung Eater, shown in the intro cinematic hanging from the gallows for unspecified crimes as the guidance of grace finds him. When we finally meet him in the game, he sits surrounded by piles of corpses, rendered in the red of an invader, a presence somehow more sinister and hostile than the actual invaders we fight in the Hold. Such a character would seem unlikely to have a vision for the future of the lands between, but he has a mending rune for us nonetheless. What might choosing such a rune mean in a game like Elden Ring?
You warded off my blessing, despite the curse stirring within you. No one has succeeded in that before. How? I thought. Then it hit me that you are, in fact, me. And I am the Dung Eater.
If you need a refresher or summary of Elden Ring, I give a quick and dirty overview in my video on the themes of its expansion. Do feel free to give that a quick watch and come back. In the Round Table Hold, there are a number of doors that are closed to us on our initial arrival. The first to open is Gideon's study. He is helpful, if haughty at first, imparting knowledge about the Hold and Shardbearers once we prove ourselves. If we pursue Fia's quest, a door opens near her chambers to show that she has killed Dee, and that she is an enemy to the Golden Order. When we reach the Altus Plateau, a door opens past the Twin Maiden husks. Roderico warns us about its tenant, sensitive to a disturbance of spirits.
A little while ago, someone started lurking in the wing on the opposite side of the round table, and I can hear, from all the way over there, the howling and wailing of spirits in fear of a curse. I can even hear the repulsive twisted malice in itself. A plethora of spirits in an unceasing cacophony. I can't even imagine. How much suffering inflicted to who knows how many souls. You should keep your distance. I know you're strong, but please.
The Dung Eater is introduced in-game as a malison, an archaic term for a curse, haunted by the screams of tormented spirits. Approaching his room, it is little wonder why. He sits amid piles and piles of corpses, implied to be his victims. He wears armor styled to look like an omen with its horns cut off, a creature abused and reviled by the Golden Order, only allowed to live above ground through self-mutilation. When approached, he asks,
Have you ever felt the curse? With your whole being, the pox upon life itself, feared and despised by all. The reviled blessing.
When it is clear you have not, he dismisses you, and if pressed, says that the Hold is all that prevents him from killing you where you stand. Early in Langdell, there is a ladder to an open rotunda overlooking the city's back streets. A page nearby accompanies the area's soundtrack on flute. It is a peaceful, if melancholy, vista. The ambience is spoiled by the room's main feature, a corpse strapped to a chair with a bloody cloth in its lap. The corpse carries a seedbed curse, the calling card of the Dung Eater, cultivated on his victims to prevent their souls from returning to their Erd tree to be reborn. It is therefore considered, per its item description, one of the most loathsome things found in the lands between. It is these souls that Roderica likely heard screaming from his chamber in the Round Table Hold. Interestingly, the curse is sprouting omen horns, implying that whatever the Dung Eater does to his victims causes them to develop the cursed blood of the omen. This detail sheds some light on the Dung Eater's choice of garb. He identifies with the omen in some way and wants to spread the omen curse via his blessings. Perhaps he feels excluded from the Golden Order, and marking his victims with the omen curse thus excludes them too. The gestation of these curses stirs something in the Dung Eater, and he recognizes their taint upon you back at the Hold.
Apparently my seedbed is ripe and waiting. 'Twas a brief respite, I must say.
He then bids you free his physical body from his cell below Langdell. The entrance to the sewer jail is concealed deep within Langdell, amid ruined buildings in the shadow of the ancient dragon Gransax's corpse. In this ghetto haunted by tortured Albinorics is a well with a ladder leading down into the sewers. Omen wander the sewers, their horns unshorn in the practice of those omen born of the golden lineage. In exchange for being spared their lowborn fellows' mutilation, they are hidden below Langdell, buried with other crimes of the Golden Order in the subterranean shunning grounds. The Omen share the shunning grounds with prisoners of the Golden Order, including the Dung Eater himself. His demeanor outside the Hold is markedly different. He beats his head bloody against the walls of his cell, shouting obscenities, lacking the eerie composure and desire for quietude he expressed before.
Let me out. Let me out of here. I must eat more. Defile more.
Could you give us some of your political beliefs?
Kill everyone now! Condone first-degree murder!
Everything that matters to you for generations to come. I am the Dung Eater.
Advocate cannibalism! Eat!
If we exercise some very poor judgment and open his cell, he offers little more than repeated promises to kill and defile.
When they're reborn, they'll be cursed, along with their children and their children's children, for all time to come.
No further questions, no further pictures. I have spoken.
A return to the Hold offers nothing more as the Dung Eater's spirit has left, leaving only a promise. I'll defile you next. Come to the outer moat. The characters in the other two reform endings involving a mending rune share a narrative pattern. The tarnish that gives you the mending rune is juxtaposed with other tarnish that serve as foils for their beliefs. In the Age of Order quest, the Gold Mask is followed and then later abandoned by Corrin to show the former's deviation from Golden Order fundamentalism. In the Age of the Duskborn quest, Fia is patronized and secretly aided by Roger, a former ally of D who turns away from hunting the dead. Fia kills one of the D-twins and then is later killed by the other. The Dung Eater too has his own foil, the blackguard Big Boggart. We find him first in Liurnia, a prawn fisherman that moonlights as a petty thief. He is hostile when we first meet, threatening us in an exaggerated Cockney accent.
What are you looking at? You trying to start something, mate?
The subtitles are peppered with J.K. Rowling levels of apostrophes to ensure his working-class patois is not lost on the player. Buying some of his dubious wares endears us to him somewhat, prompting him to divulge that he too is tarnished, though he cannot see the guidance of grace and cares little for the Golden Order.
Makes no bloody sense anyway. Why some no-name shithead like me should get called to the lands between. Cruel bloody joke, you ask me.
The blackguard would seem to have no connection to any greater vision for the lands between. He initially reads as little more than a minor character in Raya's quest, with some comic relief blended in.
Marika's tits. You must be hungry.
But it is precisely this earthy quality that makes him an interesting part of the Dung Eater's quest. When we reach the Altus Plateau, the blackguard sets up shop near the outer moat, and he now sells some actual crab. Buying some reveals his connection to the Dung Eater.
You heard of the Dung Eater? He's a madman. Has it out for everyone. Curses him. Goes round in his rank armor and all. You see him though. Stay, well, away. I was in the same jail as him once, so I know firsthand. He's a god-forsaken monster. Not just some petty thug like me. He's a killer. Kills people. And curses the souls. Does all sort of shit to the corpses. To keep them cursed forever. I ain't seen nothing more disgusting in all my years. I ain't never been more scared neither. Rooted to the bloody spot while he did that. To my friend.
When we release the Dung Eater to kill and defile again, the blackguard sees the signs and knows he is near. His suspicion does not save him, however, as the next time we visit the outer moat, we find the blackguard strapped to a chair, bearing a seedbed curse, barely alive.
Serves me right. Fitting bloody end. For a jumped up little with big ideas. Help me out. Would you, mate? I don't want to get cursed. Just let me die. I don't want to live like this. Not anymore. So, please.
We'll return to the jumped up little shit line later, as it is an odd descriptor for an ostensibly humble character to give himself. For now, there's a fight coming.
I will kill you and defile your corpse. Then the clocks will
In combat, the Dung Eater's identification with the oppressed and visibly deformed of the lands between, or at least his willingness to adorn himself with their features, is more apparent. We've discussed his armor. He also releases wraiths in much the same way that Omen do. Conceivably those souls he has defiled and cursed. He wields a sword fashioned from the backbone of a giant named Milos, described as undersized and grotesque.
The Dung Eater, again. I can hear them, the spirits as they howl and lament in fear of the curse. And worse than ever, the reverberations of the twisted malice in itself. But after all this time, I've started to grasp it now. I can hear, in the malison, another fearsome order.
You warded off my blessing, despite the curse stirring within you. No one has succeeded in that before. How? I thought. Then it hit me that you are, in fact, me. And I am the Dung Eater.
Upon defeat, the Dung Eater's Crimson Spectre returns to the Round Table hold, and with it his calm demeanor. Your actions have surprised him into as much self-reflection as he is capable of, and he has reached an interesting conclusion. You are, in fact, me. And I am the Dung Eater. This line can be read a few different ways, especially given its speaker's unreliability. He could simply be identifying with you, understanding you as an equal and a collaborator in his scheme. It could be a sort of ego preservation, a twisted resolution of the apparent contradiction that no one can spurn his blessing. If you are the Dung Eater, then the Dung Eater is victorious. We'll return to this line later. He bids us return to his cell below Landell and administer his blessing, over and over.
Until a curse ring coalesces that may one day defile order itself.
If we are to unleash the Malazan's fearsome order, we will need more seedbed curses. The seedbed curses are located in Landell, Volcano Manor, and Elphael, all beyond the Althus Plateau. The body's placement is deliberate and offers some insight into the Dung Eater's cryptic motives. The first, early in Landell, serves as an introduction to the seedbed curse. It is an intrusion in a picturesque scene, a visual metaphor for the ugliness beneath the Golden Order. The second in Landell is in the real-world Round Table hold, the second floor of the fortified manor. The corpse sits where the Dung Eater's spectre resides in the hold, a visual foreshadowing of the blessing that the Dung Eater will himself receive soon. A third is in the hidden chambers of the Volcano Manor, surrounded by tortured Albanorics driven to madness by the black dumplings they are forced to wear. This placement, like the tortured Albanorex surrounding the well to the sewers, is another link with the maimed and mistreated underclasses of the lands between. The Omen, the Giants, and now the Albanorex. Two more are found in El Fayal, a haven Mikola built for these mistreated groups. One sits in a dark chamber occupied by rotten crystallians, and the other overlooks a putrid avatar, all embodiments of the corruption and decay afflicting this would-be haven. And of course, we take one from the dying blackguard outside Landell. He is the only named victim of the Dung Eater, which lends him a particular significance. He is a cartoonish character, a caricature of a blue-collar working man with his over-annotated Cockney accent and copious expletives.
Maricus.
He and his friend were incarcerated, and now he steals and sells dubious goods to get by. Yet before his death, he sets up shop before the walls of Landell on the doorstep of the capital, symbolically on the cusp of pulling himself up by his own bootstraps. In his own words, jumped up with big ideas. The placement of these corpses each evoke decay, corruption, and association with mistreatment and deformity. They suggest a perspective that is conscious of the Golden Order's crimes, but with a curious conclusion, not to elevate or liberate those the Golden Order abuses, but to defile everyone else. Seedbed curses in hand, we descend again to the shunning grounds. The Dung Eater is once again in his cell, bound to a chair in the same fashion in which we found his victims. His speech returns to the simpler pattern he adopts outside the hold, expressing only a desire to inflict a curse upon them all. He does not even repeat his request at the hold to receive the blessing himself. But there is no need. We bestow the Dung Eater's own blessing upon him, over and over, until he dies and gives us a means to inflict the cursed blessing to all. The mending rune of the fell curse, adorned with the same omen horns as the seedbed curses.
Unleashing upon them a cursed blessing to war!
Filth are my politics. Filth is my life.
There is a subtle but crucial difference in the final cutscene between this ending and the other variations of the Reform ending. The script deviates by adding a new penultimate line.
The reviled curse that defined our age.
The other endings of this kind simply say the age of whatever. But this ending judges the choice as a curse, and after a line anticipating a new age, calls it
the blessing of despair.
Echoing the Dung Eater's oxymoronic language. The text itself disparages this ending as you choose it, calling out its inherent absurdity, and in so doing, marks it as different from the other structurally similar endings. I feel we are not meant to interpret this Reform ending the same way we do the others. I wondered on early playthroughs why the Dung Eater's narrative was framed this way, why he has a whole ending rather than a simple side quest. Framing it as an ending that a player can choose suggests that, like the other endings, it conveys a point of view on how the lands between ought to be governed. Even if you don't personally agree with the characters, you can see the reasoning behind the Gold Mask's perfect order, Ronnie's Age of the Stars, even the Flame of Frenzy. But the Blessing of Despair is not sympathetic. If anything, it repels sympathy. That's because it does not represent a real ideology, but a caricature of ideology. The loathsome Dung Eater is a boogeyman, a villain so depraved and despicable that he defies belief. Trying to sympathize with him, to understand him as we might other characters, is discouraged by his very characterization. The only reasonable perspective is one that fears him, is disgusted by him. So whose perspective is this? Whose boogeyman is the Dung Eater? To frame this, I want to talk about a movie I rewatched recently, Jordan Peele's second horror film, Us. This movie is thematically dense and heavily metaphorical, best interpreted as a dream sequence or nightmare instead of trying to make literal sense of what's happening on screen.
What are you people? We're Americans.
Take that whole, the government found a way to duplicate the body but not the soul stuff and throw it away. I'm a fan of Natalie Wynn's reading of the film from her video Envy. In that video, she interprets the main conflict in Us as the upper middle class's nightmare of the envious lower class. The film follows a well-off middle-class family vacationing in their cabin near the Santa Cruz boardwalk. Drama begins with what seems like a surreal home invasion, committed by the tethered, red-garbed doppelgangers of the family. They're bestial, violent, and aside from Addie's doppelganger, Red, inarticulate to the point of being nonverbal. This is not an empathetic portrayal of the working class. This is the working class in the disdainful eye of the upper class. Opportunistic criminals looking to take their toys and punish them for being rich. Incapable and unworthy of conventional social mobility. Natalie points out in Envy that this is the subtext of home invasion horror generally, which in Us is writ large as class revolution. From the perspective of the rich, the political demands of the working class are felt as robbery, violence, dignified with platitudes of class solidarity. They may say they want fair compensation and healthcare, but at the end of the day, all they really want is to kill you and take your stuff. The Dung Eater, like the tethered in Us, is a nightmare creation of the ruling class, an archetype viewed through the lens of their fear and disgust. Where the boogeyman of the upper middle class is the envious working class, the boogeyman of an authoritarian regime is the progressive, the reformer. As with the tethered, this attitude is evident in how the Dung Eater is portrayed. He harms innocence out of some misguided identification with the abused peoples of the lands between, adorning his person and his crime scenes with their features. But rather than trying to liberate these groups or improve their conditions in any way, he kills nobles and other tarnished, then marks them with curses bearing omen horns. He is on some level aware that what he is doing is reprehensible. He refers to his own actions as poxes, curses, defilement, yet he also calls it a blessing, at least in the civil setting of the hold. Out in the real world, the thin facade drops, and he speaks only of killing and cursing the generations to come. He is portrayed this way to reflect the ruling class's anxieties about progressivism, an ideology that claims solidarity with the oppressed, but is secretly just resentful of the prosperous ruling class. Much like how the Hands Across America homage in Us is a veneer of solidarity for the vengeful mass murder of the upper middle class, the Dung Eater's omen trappings and platitudes of blessings are a veneer of solidarity for the defilement of the Golden Order. We have a helpful contrasting example in the Age of the Duskborn story. The Golden Order refers to the scars on Godwin and Ronnie's bodies as a curse mark, while Thea calls it a hallowbrand, showing that she reveres this symbol that the Golden Order despises, giving it an appropriately irreverent name. The Dung Eater, by contrast, does not use different terminology from the Golden Order. He uses the same pejorative language for the omen. He is not their hero or advocate. He is a villain that accepts the logic and language of the oppressor, because he is the oppressor's anxieties about rebellion personified. He is rendered as violent, disgusting, and duplicitous because the oppressor finds those that oppose them violent, disgusting, and duplicitous. The Dung Eater espouses an ideology of resentment, seeking only to defile those with power rather than sharing power with all, because that is what the ruling class fears is secretly at the heart of progressivism. This attitude is reflected in the Omen armor set's description, which says that its Omen resemblance is, quote, a vision of the landscape of his mind, and of his appearance as he wished to see it. A common unserious criticism of progressives is that they want to be oppressed and claim an imagined victimhood for themselves.
Whoever suffers the most must win. I call it the oppression Olympics. And that's what's happening on college campuses. It's how can we create you into the optimal level of victimhood?
The truth is that the left wants to strap black people to this idea that they are victims. That's what it comes down to. They do not want black people focused on their futures. They want black people focused on their past. They like black people to be government dependent. They don't like to see black people that are free thinkers and are independent.
The enhancement of a sense of victimization on the part of one of the groups, usually the group that's going to commit the genocide, first of all, their sense of being victims is much heightened by the demagogues who are trying to stir up this sort of hatred. So they basically say, look, you've been oppressed in a variety of ways, and these are the people who did it, and they're not going to stop doing it, and this time we're going to get them before they get us. It's something like that. And so there's something very pathological about the enhancement of victimization, which is, well, See, that the problem, as far as I'm concerned,
The Dung Eater is this perspective on progressivism reified as a boogeyman to the status quo.
Curse you, Golden Order. One day, you'll get what's coming.
So why does the Dung Eater get his own ending? Well, because the only thing worse than one Dung Eater is two of them. The worst fear of the ruling class is organized resistance, able to topple them, to defile them. But the specific way in which the Dung Eater's narrative resolves tells on itself, confirming it as a nightmare of the ruling class rather than a depiction of an actual ideology. Specifically, the fact that the Dung Eater gives you a mending route is very telling. In the imagination of the ruling class, the worst thing they can think of is the current system, but worse. It's the myopic nightmare of a class that can't envision actual revolution or collapse, just the worst possible version of the status quo. The Golden Order still exists, but it's a bad Golden Order, one in which the reformers' platitudes are stripped away and the true goal of their resentment politics is revealed. A society in which all are pulled down to the level of the oppressed.
Hundreds will be reborn cursed, and they'll bear thousands of cursed children, who bear tens of thousands more. A few of those will be born just like me, and they'll kill and defile and bless in my stead.
The Dung Eater shoot. Can we get that first line, Queen? Roll up one on the thing.
It's so much weird.
Is that a problem? Are you not an ally?
It's a clean.
Clean, yeah.
Clean. Actually, legitimately fine.
Oh, no, I said clean. Can we get that one, Queen?
I was flattered. I was just a little surprised.
Read up that teleprompter, Hunty.
Enunciate, Logan.
Yeah. Okay.